Hi everybody. Hi. Welcome to the channel. Thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. My name's Tessie and I've got a lovely mug of tea because I've just realized that every single time I do a video, I don't have a cup of tea and the channel's literally called Chats with Tea. So I'm here to rectify that wrong today. I've got a lovely cup of chamomile tea. So today we are going to be discussing Black women and parentification because this is a problem. This is a big, big problem. And it's something that I'm finding is quite prevalent in the community. So, what is parentification? It's essentially like the role reversal of what an adult would do for a child. So, an adult is supposed to give you what? When they have kids, they're supposed to give their children, constant unconditional love, attention, care, resources as best to their ability as they can and teach them the ways in which they can grow and be self-sustaining and take care of themselves. So what happens when that role is reversed and the parent isn't able to give? Because it's pretty much a one-sided relationship if we look at it. When it comes to raising kids, parents give, 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 give. Children take, 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 take. So what happens when it becomes a role reversal situation where it ends up being the parent taking, 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 and the child giving, 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 giving? And that's what's happening in these situations of parentification. It's the role reversal of a give and take between the parent and the child. And essentially, the child ends up being the one giving, giving, giving. They end up having a ton of adult responsibilities foisted onto them, which can end up, destroying their sense of innocence, childhood development. There's a gradual childhood development, and that gets sped up way too fast when you are a parentified child. Now, apparently, there have been studies that have been shown that parentification can have some positive effects. It can actually help to build self-esteem, depending on if you, the child, see the person that you are taking care of in a positive light. Do you have a positive relationship with them? If you do, then sometimes that can actually lead to the child developing, self-esteem and self-confidence, because obviously they become quite confident in their abilities to handle themselves as they're taking care of their parent. But let's be real, most of the time it's not like that in these cases. Most of the time it's not a positive relationship. It's quite a toxic and negative one. And yeah, essentially, I've seen this happening a lot in the Black community. A lot of women literally being made to be mothers to their siblings, not being able to grow, not being able to pursue their own dreams, not being able to just decide on what they want to do with their lives. They constantly have to work so hard, take extra jobs. Sometimes we even have some Black women dropping out of school, and the guilt to consistently continue to provide, even when sometimes these siblings are already grown, is immense. Let's not even talk about the fact that this also sometimes happens with Black men. Actually, I noticed this. There are some Black men that are literally turned into like fathers for the rest of their siblings, especially the eldest child. Parentification is huge amongst the eldest child. Sometimes it doesn't always happen with the eldest child, though. It depends on who's the most capable. It depends on sometimes on who can be, who the parent can kind of like bond with more and kind of start shifting more responsibilities onto. And, as a kid grows up, you tend to teach them things. But with parentification, it's really heavy things really early on. So, kids, when they're 12, they're already worrying about bills, how to pay bills, how to keep the family food in the fridge for the family, how to like make sure that all the income is coming in. And there's no 12-year-old really in an ideal world that should be worrying about stuff like that. That is essentially parentification. You're consistently having to worry about your little siblings, about their life, path, when actually you're not their parent. The parent is the one that's meant to be worrying about that. Their parent is the one that's meant to be planning and helping their kids on their life path. But you, as the Black woman, will essentially be foisted onto that role. And it usually happens in single mother households. Sometimes, when a woman is a single mother, raising kids is hard, especially if you have multiple kids on your own, no support, no husband, no partner. And maybe you have a husband or a partner, but maybe he's just not, also capable of taking care of the kids. Some people really struggle more than others. Like they said, it takes a village to raise a child, and it really does. It really takes a village because and a lot of people don't have that village. They don't have that village to help them, and they don't have the money or the resources to hire a village to help them. So, yeah, this usually happens in households like that, single mother households or even single father households. It can really depend. And essentially, the child ends up becoming the adult, and the adult ends up being taken care of by the child. And this can range from anywhere to like making sure the adult gets their meals, takes their medication, making sure the adult has the bills paid, working, being the only child to even work in the household, or being the only person to even work in a household, and it's so detrimental. It has such detrimental effects. I've seen this happen in other groups as well, because remember there's that program Shameless. Shameless is literally about the parentification of Fiona Gallagher with the rest of her siblings, and she literally had no life of her own, which is why she ends up doing the most ridiculous and crazy stuff, and makes a lot of mistakes because she never got the chance to have her own childhood. She just consistently had to worry about raising her siblings to make sure that they stayed alive, and that causes huge damage, and it's caused huge damage in the Black community, not just in the Western world but in Africa too. There was literally there was like a TikTok I was watching of this, and you know what I love about TikTok? What I love about TikTok is a platform where the videos never stay on TikTok. I don't even know why anyone has a TikTok account anymore these days. You don't even need one. You'll see all the TikTok videos you need to see on YouTube anyway. So yeah, I was watching a TikTok video of this girl, this African girl, lovely African girl, and she was crying in her car. I think she was Nigerian. I'm not sure what Pacific country she come from, but she was crying in her car about how much trauma she had experienced from being parentified as a child, and her mother forcing her to do all this crazy stuff for her siblings, forcing her to hand over her entire paychecks. Essentially, she was never even able to go to school. She had to drop out of school. And the trauma of that, not being able to even get an education, it left her in poverty, it left her behind. And, the guilt and the punishment that she would receive if she was to ever refuse to do the things that her mum wanted her to do. And she was just crying in the car, and I felt so horrible for her because I can't even imagine the stress and the damage that has done. And you know what? That cycle repeats sometimes. That cycle repeats because sometimes if you're not careful, you end up doing the same things your parents, have done before. And this is also another reason why a lot of women end up choosing to become child free, because they have already been raising kids their entire life. Their siblings were their kids. And when you've been parentified as a child, you've already had that childbearing, raising years as a child. You don't want to experience it as an adult. You just want to have your freedom, which is why a lot of people who are parentified, sometimes they end up tending to, choose to become child free. Like even when I was reading Liz Murray's book, Homeless to Harvard, she was talking about, and bearing in mind she was, born to drug addict parents, one of who was blind, I think, or turning blind. She was talking about how she wasn't even sure she ever wanted to have kids again. And didn't she end up having like two, but it was quite later on in her life because it had traumatized her so much. The experience had traumatized her so much. And it's the same thing I'm hearing on a lot of these platforms, a lot of Black women going, I'm child free, I'm child free, I'm child free, I don't want to have kids. And it's a lot of the time it's because of what they've been through, the suffering, the trauma, it takes a lifetime sometimes to get through. And even when the Black woman has finally got herself into a position of financial security and she has to start paying for all these therapists, to actually work through the issues. And, if you're not careful, that can literally spill into so many areas of your life. There are so many Black women now struggling in poverty just because of the parentification that they suffered as a kid. You know, sometimes these parents abuse them financially, take out loans in their name, open credit cards, you know, literally commit fraud and completely destroy the child's ability to even grow financially before they even become an adult. You know, it's one of the worst things I can imagine happening to a child, to be parentified. And why does this happen? Because people have kids and they don't realize, you know, how much effort and time and love you've really got to keep pouring into it. You know, even me, sometimes I used to ask myself, like, do I want kids? Like, do I actually? You know, because it's a lot of stress, it's a lot of hard work, and you've got to really, really, really be ready and really prepared. And I actually really do rate parents who try their best, especially single parents who try their best not to parentify their children and allow them to be kids, because kids need to have that they need to have that period where they don't have worries. You know, I remember watching this documentary just a couple of days ago about this lady who was suffering so badly. She was, you know, unemployed, her husband, and they were looking for a job with the council. This was in the UK. And her child, she had like 3 kids, and they kept moving from place to place because they were homeless. And the kids were so deeply affected. They kept crying, they were miserable. And the eldest child, oh, she said something that really broke my heart. She was like, I don't ever want to have kids when I'm older. And then the interviewer was like, why? She was like, because it's hard. I just want to buy a house. And I was like, this is so sad. This is not right. How can a child, she was only 7. How can a child be saying that she doesn't want kids? Because her life is so hard. And she felt so bad. She must have felt like she was making her mum's life hard just for existing, you know, and it's really sad. It's really sad. And this is what happens sometimes. Kids that are parentified end up feeling like the only way they can be loved is if they're doing something in service of their parent, you know, and it ends up becoming like the only way they can kind of feel close to their parent, because sometimes kids that are parentified are kind of neglected unless they're doing something in service of that parent. It's a very slippery slope and a very sad subject, but I see it happening so much with Black women in Black communities, and it is actually destroying, you know, people's ability to grow and like to become that self-sufficient, self-sustaining adult that they could have been. And it's actually a huge reason why the poverty gap between white and Black people keeps widening, you know, because you've got Black people who can't even take the time to like have their own income. Everything they're working towards, even while in university, they're working and they're giving their money to their parents, giving their money to their parents. They don't even get to keep any of the money they make. So they just keep falling behind further and further. And they don't have a safety net to catch them when they, you know, end up falling out of work, either due to job loss or sickness. So they just end up plunging deep into poverty. It's just a terrible situation all around. So, you know, definitely, I want to know if you guys have had experiences with parentification, if you've been parentified before. I think this happens to Black men and Black women. It happens as well in other groups, but it's really prevalent in Black men and Black women, most specifically Black women, because Black women, Black mothers tend to lean on their daughters very hard, the most. They tend to sometimes give leeway to their sons and lean heavily on their daughters, and they in some that can end up becoming quite toxic between mother and daughter. You can end up having like competition, jealousy, you know, especially if the mother feels the daughter pulling away and trying to build her own life. So yeah, it's, you know, they almost use the daughter as like a replacement for a husband. It's crazy. It's really sad. But yeah, I want to know if you guys have any experiences of this. So yeah, that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about, really. The parentification of Black women as kids and how that affects the community and as a whole. It has huge rippling effects, you know. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you guys, if I can find that clip on TikTok, I'll actually post it to my video. I don't have a TikTok account. I don't even have any other social media other than YouTube. I've deleted my Instagram, my influencer Instagram, and I only have my business Instagram. So yeah, if I can find that TikTok video, it's not going to be easy, but if I can find it, I'll definitely post it. Thank you guys for watching. I know I'm just in a casual mood today. I just wanted a casual sit down, intimate chat with you guys. So yeah, that's it. I am off and I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for subscribing and I hope you have a lovely day. And yeah, enjoy your day. Bye guys.